2. Welcome to San Francisco's Public Access TV. I'm your host today, along with a very important person in the world, especially in the Bay Area. San Francisco is very fortunate to have a good friend working for them as the public defender. Jeff Adachi said public defender, not public pretender. Manu Raju, how are you?
I'm doing well. Mano, Raju, elected public defender for San Francisco. It's a pleasure to be on your show today, maybe.
And tell us a little bit about your office. I don't think a lot of people know what you have in there.
Sure. We take a lot of pride in being what we think is the finest public defender office in the country. I'm an elected public defender, which gives me a little bit more independence, and we're fiercely loyal to the people that we represent. As we know in this system, it tends to be poor people, people of color, immigrants who get caught up in the system. And without us speaking up for our clients, their voices wouldn't be heard. And so that's a critical part of what we do. We take a lot of pride, to your point. Jeff Adachi was one of my mentors in not being public pretenders. We want people to think, and I always wanted people to know when I represent them, I don't care how much money you have for a private attorney, I'm going to provide better representation than you can get from a private attorney. And we want that to be the case throughout our office. We take very seriously a training program. We get people applying to our office from all over the country, some of the best and the brightest and the most committed to this work, and we practice at a very high level. And our results back that up in terms of the results that we see in trials every day. But being warriors in the courtroom is only one aspect of what we do. We're also a public safety organization that does so much for the community. Client-centeredness is really important to us, being fiercely loyal to our client, but extending beyond that, we're also family-centered, because we know the reality is the impact that we have on that client isn't just going to impact them, it's going to impact their kids, maybe the next generation, their auntie, parents, people who are connected to that person. So we were very mindful of the fact that we're representing someone. The impact of our representation is going to flow out to their loved ones also. So we take that very seriously. If someone is in jail or prison for longer than they should be, because we didn't perform at our top level, it's going to impact that family. And that's why, and that family is more destabilized, which is one reason we're a public safety organization. In addition to that, though, we're constantly trying to work to connect our clients with services, with housing, with labor, with mentors, with substance use disorder counseling if that's needed. We have a college pathway program to get our clients connected to San Francisco State and to City College. So we're trying to get for whatever reason clients came into our care, we're trying to get them to a better place.
That's great. And what about your office that makes it work? What makes it work?
Sure. Well, we put a lot of thought after I was elected. We went through a strategic planning process because a lot of public defenders, we're defenders, so we're on the defensive, and that everyone who is charged with a crime in San Francisco who cannot afford an attorney is appointed a public defender. So every day we're having to respond. And the Constitution tells us to zealously represent our clients. But it's important to also take a step back, because we're not funded as well as the police, not funded nearly as well as the prosecution or the sheriff or the probation. We have to work smarter, and we have to be more nimble, and we have to be more effective. So we went through a strategic planning process. So we have different chiefs in our office in charge of different functions so that we can nimbly make decisions. And I think strategic planning is a very important to do for nonprofits, for community-based organizations, and also for public defenders, because we have to do more with less. So we have a vision statement that we boiled down to one page, and we're fiercely committed to that vision. And it involves fiercely defending our clients, fighting against, confronting state-sponsored violence, and advocating for community power. And we have values that hold us together, and that's something that we take very seriously. And I think that's what works, is working in teams. Our motto is greater than one. which means, as I mentioned before, we recognize that our clients are greater than just themselves, that our work impacts the whole community. But also as an office, we're greater than one. We have paralegals, social workers, attorneys, IT staff, communication staff, policy staff, and we're all working together in collaboration. And we're also greater than one, that we work with community-based organizations.
That's
because
great.
we can't do it alone, so we always try to connect with community-based organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, we had about 70 community-based organizations sign on to our budget ask because they're aware of how vital the work we do is for the community.
Well, your warrior program, because you got to be a warrior in San Francisco just to go through the system. Talk about some of those type of breakdowns.
Sure. Well, one reason we need warriors in the courtroom is that mischarging or overcharging is rampant.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. One, because the prosecution is limited in their evaluation of a case. They're making the police are booking based on some interviews they did, and then the district attorney is limited in just looking at that police report and deciding what to charge. They haven't done a big social history. They don't understand. They may have a sense of the what, but they don't understand the why necessarily. That may come from our client on the witness stand.
Right.
Additionally, the police are going to interview witnesses, but our investigators will go and interview the same witnesses again and get a deeper picture, find other witnesses that may not have been interviewed by the police. It's just very common for the prosecution to frankly get it wrong. And if there's not a public defender vigorously defending someone's rights, people would be wrongfully convicted every day. Every day in this country, there are people pleading to things they shouldn't do. They shouldn't be pleading to because they're in jail and they're just pleading to get out, or because the prosecution charged 3 or 4 strikes and they'll say, well, we'll drop the strikes, just plead to this. The same case that can be resolved by saying, let's just call the parents and settle this, sometimes get charged as a felony in our courts. And that's why we need public defenders who are willing to leave no stone unturned in investigation, prepare witnesses, interview witnesses, retain experts, and prepare clients to testify sometimes. All of this is important to painting a bigger canvas than the bare bones of the police report. And we see time and time again, when we start cross-examining witnesses, we start putting on a case, the case will inevitably look very different than the police report. And that's why we need public defenders.
Well, that's really very, very important. And, let's talk a little bit about the public safety component.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, making sure that people don't get wrongfully convicted is the biggest public safety thing we do because of the devastating impact on generations in our community. Additionally, though, we connecting people with services. We have a magic program mobilizing adolescent growth and community that has active programming throughout the year in the Bayview and in the Fillmore here in San Francisco.
Really?
And those programs have 100% high school graduation rate from those young people who engaged in that. They have free summer programming that they're coordinating with other community-based organizations in these areas, give away thousands of backpacks before school. So we're trying to keep people in neighborhoods that are over-policed from coming into the system to begin with. So that's a big piece of what we do on the public safety realm. Then we're trying to connect people with services. And importantly, if someone does suffer a conviction for some reason and they're placed on probation, we have a very robust clean slate program to make sure that conviction doesn't trail and impact them for the rest of their lives. So we have a clean slate program that expunges records so that people can gain access to housing, education, and jobs, which obviously does a lot for public safety.
Well, that's the future for someone.
Right.
For people that may not understand clean slate, can you just give us a little more briefing on that one?
Sure. So there's been an expansion of the law that allows for expungements for clients after they've completed probation. So you can come to our office, you can go to our website, fill out the paperwork, and we have a team that will file a motion for you in court to get your record expunged. And that's something we take very seriously. We have paralegals, we have attorneys, so we file thousands of motions every year to get people's records expunged. It's one of the most vital parts of our organization. We also have a freedom project that works on cases for people who have been in prison for decades sometimes. But there's been a change in the law that will allow a judge to reduce the sentence or strike an enhancement that may carry some years in prison, or there's been a determination that the laws changed and the underlying conviction was improper. Well, prosecutors aren't just going to go rifling through their files to bring cases in front of the judge. It has to be defenders that do that. So we have a freedom project that has released 99 people at this point who are looking at serious prison time or sometimes life sentences that have come home, and zero recidivism. But in order for that to happen, in addition to doing the legal work, we have to provide and work with the community to provide housing, wraparound services to make sure people are supported when they come home. That's another big contribution to public safety that also saves millions of dollars in terms of the cost that it takes to incarcerate people. Right.
You know, and you also were on the steps of City Hall the other day with the death penalty.
Yes, with Sister Helen Prejean. It was really an honor to be on the steps with her and other faith-based leaders in San Francisco, because while there's been a pause on the death penalty by Gavin Newsom, we still do have a death row, and we haven't abolished the death penalty entirely. What happens when death penalty is an option, even though people have been executed in California for a number of years now, is it's a leverage tool, like I talked about overcharging before. Because you could say, well, we're going to seek the death penalty, you better take life without parole. And then more people are inclined to plead to that. Whereas if that were off the table, and the vast majority of Californians do not think we should have a death penalty, then the top would be life without parole. And, you know, if you didn't want that, you'd be more inclined to fight the case. But when the death penalty is there, often people will see life without parole as an option that they should plead to, and they don't actually litigate the case in the way that they should, because they're afraid of the consequences.
And there was someone there on the steps that spent 17 years for something they didn't do.
Absolutely. Sabrina Butler.
Yes.
And and she's very inspirational in the work that she's doing to talk about the problems with the death penalty. And in this case, the problem was she was totally innocent, and she was sitting on death row. And there's so many things that can come from. The lack of jury diversity, for example, is one of the issues. The overcharging, the bias, sometimes the quality of the defense attorney or the defense attorney's team. And that's another thing that we worked on in San Francisco to try to increase jury diversity. We started to be the jury program. After I was elected, I approached the treasurer, and along with our policy team, we had got the district attorney on board and the treasurer, and now we have a system where previously, if you would have had a financial hardship and you wouldn't be on the jury, now you'll get paid $100 a day or $75 a day so that you can serve on the jury, which is increasing economic and racial diversity for
on the jury,
on our juries.
How important is that, really?
That's absolutely critical, because you're supposed to have a jury of your peers, but there's a lot of people when you represent them, they look around, they say, wait, this isn't a jury of my peers. There's no one who looks like me. There's no one who understands what it's like for me to live, say, in a housing project or in a certain part of San Francisco. They're not going to understand my reality, and yet they're going to be judging the facts and applying law in this case. So it's vitally important to have a diverse jury. And I found, and jurors have reflected back to me, thank God we had so-and-so on the jury. I think we had someone from that neighborhood on the jury, because they were able to help us collectively come to a much better decision, because they understood things that we didn't. Another thing we've done in San Francisco, and I started this I used to have a pickup basketball game over at Balboa High School. And there was someone who came to that game who worked with a lot of young people in the Bayview, and he said, you know, they're mislabeling a lot of these young people as gang members when they're not, just based on their zip code, just based on their proximity to other people, where they live or who their cousin was. And I said, you know what, I want you to come to court and say that and talk about some of the dynamics. And the district attorney said, well, he doesn't have the qualifications to be a quote unquote gang expert. And I said, that's fine, because my client's not a gang member, but he does have the qualifications to be a community expert. So I'll call him as my community expert. The prosecution called their quote unquote gang expert who isn't from the neighborhood, who doesn't have the understanding of all the dynamics of young people there, and we'll let the jury decide. And what I found time and time again is the jurors were very hungry for that information. They were on the edge of their seats when the community experts are testifying because they want someone to bridge that gap,
Right.
perhaps between their background, where they may have been raised, and the environment that some of our clients were raised in.
So I would call that taxation with representation, which
Trying to get
basically
more.
we do not have across America. And we're very fortunate in San Francisco to have you. And one of the programs I was looking at was your Pride. Is a big deal in San Francisco. Pride, people with pride. I mean, goodness, it's a big word. And, pride with representation. How important is that?
When you say pride, are you talking about the pride events, or are you talking about pride more generally?
Pride more generally, like in your office, do you have any programs that deal with pride or anything of that nature, or no?
Well, diversity and representation is very important to our office in all facets. So we want to make sure that people, have advocates representing them who reflect and who look like them. So that's something we take
That's
very,
really important. Yeah.
It's very important. It's very important in terms of that client connection. It is important. It can help you do the job better, and it helps us overall as an office to have different language skills, people, different sexualities, different genders, different races, because it makes us a better office if we have that diversity.
So if I come to your office, there's always a rainbow.
Yes.
In other words.
Yes.
And when I see the rainbow, I really open up more. I'm more receptive. I realize it's like a family of peers that I can talk with.
Exactly. That's something we try to make sure that we maintain in the office, and maybe with the team, maybe you're not vibing as well with maybe this investigator, but then the paralegal you feel more comfortable with. And that doesn't mean that everyone's not making valuable contributions, but inevitably you're going to feel more comfortable with some people than others. And if we can, that ability to connect with your clients is one of the biggest things that affects outcomes. There's a lot of public defender clients you hear over and over again across the country, and sometimes they've unfortunately done decades in prison that felt like, I didn't really feel connected to my team. And that's why we take that very serious, that we want people to feel that connection. And as a way of promoting that, one thing that we encourage is don't wait for the call from the client's family. You reach out yourself. Ask your client, who do you want me to reach out to? And let them know what's going on in the case. Let them know the dates so they can come and attend, so they can stay in touch with the client. And in addition to just informing the client, so their client's family, so they're more at ease, it also changes you as an advocate. Because people aren't always going to be the best at talking about themselves. But if you talk to someone's auntie, if you talk to their brother, if you talk to their grandparent, if you talk to their child, now all of a sudden you're forming a deeper understanding of who it is you're representing. And when you're talking to a judge or you're talking to a jury, they can feel that. They can feel like you really care about this person, you really know them. And that makes a difference in the outcome.
And we are also having the Sheriff Oversight Board Committee, President William Palmer coming in a little later. And so there's a lot of things that happen inside that most people don't know, where people's rights are being violated. And they come to you probably saying, you know what, this is going on in here. We need to be defended. How do you deal with that particular part of protection?
It's big. In fact, right now there's an issue where they are strip searching our clients after they have attorney visits, which is one, offensive and invasive, and it's also causing clients to not necessarily want to go to their attorney visits. So we're actively trying to change in that policy as we speak. In addition to that, though, that's one of the reasons we don't want people in there to begin with. People are presumptively innocent, and we detain way too many people in jails while their cases are pending, which distorts outcomes because, one, it's just not a place where people want to be, and two, they're more inclined to plead to something just to get out, which they can impact them tremendously. You're on probation, you have a record, and so. But in addition to fighting to keep people out to begin with, so we put a lot of work up front to gathering information, to put as much information in front of the judge so that they can hopefully make a decision to release the client while their case is pending. If that fails, we also try to encourage people to not unnecessarily delay a case. If you can, move the case quicker, always being prepared, we prefer to do that so people aren't in for too long a period of time. And then we are constantly working to try to address conditions when we hear about them. We meet with people from the sheriff's department to try to address the issues. But there's a lot that you can't control. People who be put into what's called ADSEG or sort of solitary situations in jail, which can be really devastating to you, physically and emotionally. So it's not a place you want to be. So we do try to put a lot into filing motions and then also trying to move the cases forward as quickly as you can while also being prepared.
So it seems like there is a more of a need to defend, and the funds are not there. Seems that seems to be something that needs to be. What is your relationship with Mayor Lori? And I'm pretty sure he's getting a handful of it himself about this.
Yes, I mean, I brought this to attention just as I brought up to the previous mayors that we have a funding problem in our country, in that we don't fund the defense nearly to the degree we should, and the prosecution, the police, the sheriff get way more money than we do, even though we are the only constitutionally mandated function in the ecosystem of public safety. It's the public defender. But because we represent a group which is mainly people without a lot of resources, people of color, immigrants, there's not a lot of political leverage to get more funding. So throughout the country, public defenders are underfunded, and San Francisco is no exception to that. However, we have been able to, through education, through community-based organizations, slowly grow our budget. We're still not close to parity for the district attorney's office, but we are growing. But we have a long way to go in that realm to ensure, to fund defense adequately so that we can represent people as we should, and so that we can continue our contributions in the public safety realm, which are crucial.
That's great, because I know I had brought up to former Mayor London Breed. I brought up to London. I said, London, the sheriff knows everybody in jail and out of jail, so therefore it's a good resource on the street, and it's a different mentality. So why isn't that department getting more so that they can help partner, collaborate? And the next thing I know, their budget went up. I don't know if it was me, but I think it was an embarrassing questions. And so what can the citizens, the voter is the main thing that we can do here to convince people that resources for first class, second class, and no class, whatever, is needed more now than ever.
Well, I think people should, continue to reach out to their elected officials, reach out to their supervisors, reach out to the mayor, and let them know that they want their public defender office to be to have greater funding. And I'm hopeful that we're going to get some more funding in the upcoming weeks and in the upcoming budget cycles, because I think people are aware. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. But in tight budget times, I think it's really important we fund the people who protect the rights of the most vulnerable in our society, and that's public defenders. So, and the other piece about public defenders and our contribution is, keep in mind, we're already fighting to protect people's constitutional rights.
Right.
So, and to get their best legal outcome in the case. So we're in a very trusted position. So people who are struggling are going to feel comfortable confiding in us because they know it's privileged information. They can talk to their attorney. They can confess the issues. They can open up. And if you can open up to someone, we're better suited to actually connect that person with the services that are going to get them on a more positive trajectory for themselves, that then make us all safer. And that's why we need more public defenders, more public defender attorneys, social workers, paralegals, investigators.
And that comes to one of the closing remarks of education.
Mhm.
Now, if a lot of people look at law enforcement, but they don't see a legal perspective as a public defender, that's a part of law enforcement.
Exactly,
Defending.
exactly. We're defending the Constitution.
Right.
We're defending the highest laws of our land. We're actually enforcing the laws that are crucial, the most fundamental laws that we have. And so we are law enforcement. We're enforcing the laws, and we're also protecting people's rights.
So we have to change that perception, and we hope we can help you do that.
Yes.
And if I wanted to get into law enforcement and all the fields, or become a public defender, how do I do that as a young person? How do I come up and say,
Sure. After I was elected, I reached out to the school board and some teachers in San Francisco. We started the Young Defender program.
Mhm.
So we have a paid internship for high school students who are in San Francisco to work in our office, and they get exposure to being a paralegal, being an investigator, what our IT unit does, being an attorney. All of these areas are magic programs that I mentioned earlier. All these areas are something that you can get exposed to. We also have an internship program, very vibrant internship program that takes in hundreds of people per year who are undergraduates or in law school to get exposure to what we do.
do I have to have a law degree? I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you don't have to have a law degree. You don't have to have a law degree. We train people who are law students. We train people who are undergraduates and others too. So we take very seriously our role to not just represent people, but develop the next generation of public defenders to do this very crucial work as effectively as we can.
Well, I know we got just a few minutes. I wanted to thank you so much for coming, man.
Thank you, AB.
This has
It's
been
always
a
a pleasure.
member. This has been I'll never forget this, ladies and gentlemen, because you finally saw a side that you don't see. And we hope to bring them in here at least 12 times a year so that you can get to know their offices and what they do and become an advocate for something that is giving you taxation with representation. As I say, the Constitution, we're not written in it. And these are people that are writing you and me for your rights in the Constitution. And I want to thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
putting
much.
us on the books.
Pleasure to be here.
All right,
Always,
thank you so much.
anytime.
No
Thanks for
problem.
having us.
All right, that's it. So what we'll do is we will send you a copy